Missy Cook was an athlete and a knockout, and she hadn't had a real setback in her 22 years. And suddenly she was losing a leg to cancer. In August 1979, Missy became a freshman at the University of Miami, majoring in health and fitness management. Her plans were appropriately vague for an 18-year-old college student with doting parents, no money worries, glowing good health. She would finish school, marry someday, raise a large family someday. When she was getting ready for the amputation, she was preparing like a jock. She was working out, getting her body and her mind prepared for the trauma. It was going to be hard, and she knew it. The night before the surgery, we were in Missy's room, waiting. A young doctor appeared in the doorway. "Missy Cook?" "I'm Missy," she said. He pointed toward her right leg and said uncomfortably, "You're here for a amputation," Missy said. The call came from the operating room announcing that Missy's turn had come. Missy's mother accompanied the gurney, her eyes red-rimmed. Their small talk was forced, about catching mangoes as they fell from the tree, and about what they would do once Missy returned home. "It's going to be better afterwards," Missy reassured her mother, as the elevator doors closed. The hardest thing I've ever had to do as a photographer was to follow Missy Cook into the operating room. "My heart's racing," Missy said. "She's scared," said the anesthesiologist. Beyond Missy's view, a nurse hooked up an electrical amputation saw. Suddenly, Missy kicked her right leg, violently. Then she lay still. She would say later, speaking to her leg. She was saying goodbye. The surgeon walked in. "Hello, doctor," Missy said. "You know it's my right leg, don't you?" "Are you in pain, Missy?" the nurse asked. The voice made her start. Fighting the anesthesia, she turned her head, her face contorted. "Is everything all right?" she asked, her voice a whisper. "My leg. It hurts." She turned to me. "Bill, lift up the cover," weakly gesturing towards her leg. "More." I lifted the blanket completely. She craned her neck to see, then slumped back on the pillow. The color drained from her face. "Cover it," she said, and fell back into a drugged sleep. 2 weeks later, she returned to the hospital to have the stitches removed. Missy grew impatient with how long it was taking, so she asked for the scissors and snipped out the stitches herself. We were at the doctor's office, and Missy had been fitted with her new leg. This one was amazingly real. It had been modeled after her other leg. It looked like a leg, and it gave when you touched it. It felt like a leg. Under pantyhose, it would pass for a real leg. The thing about Missy is, never one time did I ever hear her complain about this being unfair. I never heard her saying the doctor screwed her over, or God screwed her over. She never said she'd been cheated. She was always dealing with this as a temporary problem. She was going to grow a new leg, get up, and walk, period. So she's standing on a rubber mat with parallel bars on either side of her, and she's facing a mirrored wall, and I'm thinking she's going to take her first steps. Suddenly, she bolts forward. I think she's falling, and I drop my camera to catch her, but no, she's sprinting, full tilt, slam, right in the mirror, and she stands there, looking at me, panting, triumphant. Her eyes were screaming, "Look at me!" She'd promised me she'd get up and run, and she did, and I missed the picture. Desmoid fibrosarcoma, an extremely rare, insidious tumor that can flare in the limbs of physically active people. No one knows why. Some believe it may be triggered by repeated bruises to a section of the body, a boxer's hand, a catcher's knees, a soccer player's foot. This tumor turns athletes into amputees.